You're listening to the Her Money Story podcast with your host, Felicia Gopaul. Every woman has a story that explains her relationship to money and finances, and a woman's story about money shapes her actions, both positive and not, for years to come. This podcast is for any woman learning how to take care of her money so that her money can take care of her now and into the future.
You know, the first time I heard the term Henry is when today's guest posted about it in a forum that we both belong to. After I heard him describe them, I realized that I actually had several of them in my practice. Henry is a term coined in 2003 by Sean Tully in a Fortune magazine article. And today's guest is going to be sharing about the demographics of the group, as well as describing some of the challenges that they experience. And once you listen to today's podcast episode, you can determine if you're a Henry too. So before we dive in, let me introduce today's guest. Today's guest is Jasper Smith. And Jasper, could you just take a few minutes and tell my audience a little bit about who you are and your expertise, please?
Yeah. So again, I'm Jasper Smith. Some people also know me as Mr. Bill Wealth, and I am a financial planner, advisor, consultant, coach, therapist. And again, I just put financial in front of everything else that I do because I help people in a number of ways just to kind of change the way they think and feel about money, all in an effort to help them achieve their goals, to become a financial rock star, to have financial independence, however you want to coin that goal. That's what I do day in, day out, just helping people to kind of sort some things out, make some decisions, and then we kind of check in and make sure that they're following the course. And as life happens, we make adjustments.
So my listeners may be wondering why I've got Jasper on, because I'm a financial expert talking to a financial expert. But the reality is I don't serve everybody. Jasper serves a very different demographic than I do. And I'm about giving you good information that applies to your situation. So if I'm not a good fit, Jasper very well may be. And who he is really great about working with millennials. So in general, I get millennials from time to time, but they're not my focus. And Jasper's probably a good fit for you if that's what you're focused on. So tell me first and foremost, who is or what is a Henry?
So the Henry is the high earner, not rich yet person. And as a fellow millennial, I understand my group. We are highly educated and a lot of us are high earners. However, we didn't get the memo about taking care of our money. So we got the job, we got the degrees, and we just out here living. We got expensive tastes. We love going on trips, going to shows, just traveling and we love living life. We work hard. We almost feel like we're entitled to go blow some money, but we're not thinking about what if we actually make it to 60, 70, 80 years old or 90. Like we don't think about sometimes the longevity piece. We're all about YOLO, right? You only live once. So I respect it, but it's also causing issues with us achieving some of these financial goals that they can all dream and fantasize. I want to retire early. I want to have X amount of savings, X amount in an investment account. I want to have all this real estate. That's great. So how are we going to fund all of that? So we have these thoughts and beliefs and dreams, but we're not putting any type of plan in action. And a lot of my Henry clients are just taking their paycheck for granted. And I've seen it a dozen times. I'm making, let's call it north of $200,000. I think that's pretty good anywhere in the country.
I think we all agree.
North of 200. And so if they're married, you can double that number, right? So let's just use 200,000. They'll say, I'm living check to check.
So, I'm sorry, you got to stop. How could you be making 200, possibly as much as $400,000 and live paycheck to paycheck? That don't make no kind of sense.
It didn't make sense to me initially until I had that discovery meeting. And I was like, tell Mr. Bill Wealth where it hurts. Why are you on the struggle bus? And Felicia, all I do is sit back and listen to the lifestyle. And it was, I eat out all the time. I order food, and that's fine. You got to eat. But I was like, can you cook a little bit? Can you use a microwave? I mean, I'm a wine connoisseur. I love cigarettes. It's always something that isn't a necessity to live, was where I was finding all the money going. And it was just small things, Felicia. Like I'll never forget this one guy during the pandemic. He brought a brand new car.
Okay.
And I was like, bro, where are you going? Like the world is shut down. It was a brand new Tesla, fully loaded, suited and booted. And he takes out this loan to get it. I said, dude, where are you going? You can't go are you taking a road trip? And he didn't say that. So you bought a brand new car that's just going to sit outside. The battery's never going to run down because you ain't going nowhere. So Felicia, we had a good laugh about it, but he was like, I never thought of that. And I was like, dude, you got a master's. You are a high-ranking manager at this very reputable firm, and you out here just blowing money like that on a car. You're not even going to use it.
Well, the thing that I think is interesting, as people, we haven't been trained and we haven't been taught how to handle our money. And so even with the people who work with me, they haven't learned how to manage their money, and they brought up youngsters who are now millennials who don't know how to handle their money. So it's really a generational thing. So the fact that you've got in your thing that let's disrupt generational poverty, I think that's really key and critical, because if you don't learn the skills, then you can't apply it to your situation and you're just living large. And the other thing that you said that really resonated with me is they're not thinking about the future. So you and I, when we look at their finances, we already know what their future is going to look like just based on what they're doing today. So unless something disrupts that, they're going to end up in their 60s, 70s with really very little to show for it. It's for us, it's about showing them how to disrupt that at their younger ages so that they can accumulate wealth over time.
Yeah, and Felicia, what I also found, this was interesting, and this is pretty typical. A lot of my Henrys are supporting family members, whether it's mom, dad, auntie, grandparent, like they are a lot of times the first to go to college, to get the high paying job. So there was all this, like, we'll call it familial or societal pressures to, like, I had to be the best because I'm the only one that's gotten this far. And so it's almost like the spending is in direct relation to, I needed a break because so much responsibility has been on my shoulders just at growing up in my family that I need to blow off some steam. And so I blow money just because it makes me feel like I've earned, like I've done some good work. I deserve to play. And I always say, yes, you do. You deserve. Spending is a part of the overall financial plan. We just got to figure out, are you doing too much and not spending or saving and investing enough? That's the part I want to figure out. So the family support, I always hear that when I'm sending my mom and dad, or, they got to have this money, or they didn't do anything for retirement. So I'm starting, whatever the issue is, that's money out of their pockets that's not going into their pockets. And you love your family. So my Henrys a lot of times have family that they're financially supporting. And there's really probably no end to it, Felicia, because as they continue to ascend to higher levels in their profession, mom and dad want more money, because now they almost make them, and I've heard this too, they kind of make them feel guilty. Like, you got it. You might as well share it with me. And that's okay if you have it and you've got the plan that can support that lifestyle, like your lifestyle and theirs. That's fine. The problem is the Henry won't take the time to do the planning. So they'll bypass you, they'll bypass me, and then they'll just keep trying to figure it out on their own because they are educated. I feel like I should be able to do this on my own. And that's where the Henry trips up and falls over and over, where it's like, I can't figure it out. I'm living check to check. I'm feeling the stress. Let's get a plan in place, y'all. Get a plan in place.
You really kind of highlighted several different things that I think are characteristics of Henrys. First and foremost, that they're high earners. They're taking care of family. They're often the first in their first generation to build the wealth that they've built. They feel like they need to take and relax and take care of themselves. And they just have all of this stress on themselves. Now, you live in the Bay Area in particular, and I imagine that there's a lot of Henrys there that just recently went through layoffs. So what are some of the challenges that Henrys have to really address, as in addition to making sure that they get connected to people like ourselves and have people like ourselves on their team to help them navigate those sorts of things? But given the layoff that a lot of Henrys have been going through, What are some of the other challenges that they really need to address?
Yeah, the layoff thing, it hit home for me because I actually did some sessions geared towards that specifically because I needed to do something timely. Like people really don't want to talk when they get fired. Like they just kind of like your whole life is consumed by your title or your company. And that's also to the detriment of our Henrys. We got to disconnect from those jobs. So those jobs are great. They support our lifestyles, but so much was put into it that when you lose it, a lot of them get depressed. So they didn't want to talk. They didn't want to even think about anything for at least a couple of weeks versus thinking about this is the best time for you to kind of hit the reset button and figure out what's next. But when you don't have somebody in your corner, they don't have to be a financial person, just somebody that's uplifting you and letting you know that, yeah, that was just a chapter in your life and that chapter has closed. So let's think about the next chapter. But when we kind of lump in the financial component, well, you didn't have the emergency fund and now you wish you would have had it. So we've had that happen. Some of my tech clients who have stock options or just you have options in general, like maybe we should have liquidated some of that stock previously to put in the emergency fund. Then the emergency fund is there. So a lot of them were trying to scramble and now we're trying to borrow from the 401k. We are maybe borrowing or using our credit cards just to like live. So proper planning could have helped avoid a lot of that stress of not having the paycheck. It can be avoided if we do the work, but the problem is nobody's constantly in their ear reminding them, hey, there could be a time when your job just says, we got to make some business decisions and you got to go. And so reality sets in at that moment. But we got to prepare better.
You know, I know that Henrys or clients in general are not the same. Give me 3 things that you would say that every Henry needs to do in order to work with you or to be in a better position because they met you.
So first thing, have an open mind. Again, coming in, I know you know stuff. You just might not know enough about the money game. So I just say keep the open mind. The second ask would be willing to be honest with me. If you tell me where it hurts, I can make a proper recommendation. You shouldn't lie to me, lie to everybody else. But if we are in engaging in a conversation, I need you to be honest. So keep the open mind. I need you to be honest with me. And then the last piece is be willing to take the step. By step, I mean, we got to execute something that we talk about. And that step could be small, like I need you to download a budget template. Just do that. Or it could be a big step where it's like, I need to see all your employee benefits and we need to go through all of them. So the next time you get a new job, I need you to understand your benefits. So, and it could be anywhere along this continuum of we got to execute and take a step forward on something. We can't just talk and theorize and do projections and calculations. I got all the software in the world. I know you do the same thing. The analyses we do for people is almost useless because unless they understand why we're doing it and why we need to execute, we're wasting our time. So I've had to learn how to ask, do you want me to do an analysis? Because if not, I'm just going to tell you what to do. But you got to know that I try to be as honest with my prospective clients is I'm going to be honest with you. I need the same courtesy. But I don't want to do extra work if you're not going to value that time that I got to put in to go in that software, to go read some things, to review your documents. I don't want to do that work unless you understand that we're going to do something after I do this analysis. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to provide some recommendations, but we got to execute. Like Felicia, I know you probably have a handful of clients right now who you've done some great work. You thought they were going to do something and they have just been sitting. They probably haven't even called you back, haven't returned the email. And that's what scares me about Henrys.
They ghost me. I hate to say it, but I have had some people ghost me. Yeah.
Yep. We got to be willing to take that step. And I think that's why that's probably the third piece, but probably the most important. We got to be willing to take that step. You know what? I'll say that. Let me add a fourth one. And it's really a question that I want to ask all of your listeners. Are you willing to allow someone to help?
I think we could have a session just on that.
So I'll say if I had to put a little number 4 in there, are you willing to allow someone to help? And Felicia, when you ask that question, I always have a dramatic pause afterwards because I don't want to ask the question and then move on. I want to let it sit. I want it to marinate. And I do that before I do webinars and presentations. Just I kind of say it as are you willing to let someone help you no matter what the topic is that day? And then I follow up at the end. I'll say, hey, We've covered a lot. It's probably intimidating, but if you are willing to allow someone to help you, it won't be as challenging as you thought.
So I heard, are you open to listening? Will you be honest with me? Are you willing to take the steps necessary to make a difference in your life? And are you willing to get help? Because the thing about this particular demographic that I think is true for the demographic that you and I both work with is they're highly educated and they're used to doing it on their own. And so asking for help for them is really challenging. I sit there and laugh at my clients sometimes. They'll call me up and say, da, 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 da. And I was just like, And this is the decision I made. And I was just like, And I was just like, I go, thank you for sharing whatever you just shared with me. But did you remember that you hired me and I'm the person that you should be consulting? Oh, yeah. I forgot, because they're so used to doing it on their own that they forget that even though they've hired me to work with them, their default is to try and figure it out on their own. I've got one particular client who comes to mind. Whenever she's got something money thing going on, she gives me a phone call. I was just like, if I could just clone her, I would be a very happy financial advisor.
Felicia, I
like, because I have got a multitude that are going to try and figure it out on their own before I was just like, oh, all you got to do is da 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 da. Do you know I've just spent the last month trying to figure this out? And I was just like, what do you mean? Why did you spend the last month trying to figure this out? You hired me. You could talk to me. So anyways, I know you are speaking some truth right there.
Yeah, Felicia.
Jasper, could you just take a minute and so if somebody is listening to today's podcast and they're just like, MIA, Henry, you know that they're high income, they have very little in savings, they have very little in wealth. But tell me some stories so that our listeners might be able to go, oh, that's me, or that's me. And I know you've got some stories. So tell me 3 stories of some Henrys that you've kind of encountered so that my listeners can perhaps identify with them.
Yeah. The first story, I'll call them my social observer. And by social, I mean social media. Pick your favorite platform. This guy he came to me after a talk. He said, man, your talk was great, but I don't need to pay anybody because I watch YouTube and TikTok. I watch all this stuff online. I think I got a good plan. And as he's talking, I'm listening to the keyword. He said, I think, which means he doesn't know.
Right.
He kept using like think, I might, and I'm listening to those keywords as he's talking. And I said, does anybody on these social platforms actually know about your situation? And I paused just like that, Felicia. And he was like, you're right. And I was like, so let me guess. You probably bought somebody's book. You probably signed up for somebody's webinar, a paid webinar, not the free. You skipped the free one. You paid for a webinar. And I just started listing all things he's probably tried to do. And I said, and he started laughing. He said, man, how you know me? I said, because I meet one of you every week. Every talk that I do, there's one of you in my audience who feels like they are the do-it-yourselfer. And I'm fine with my clients being engaged in the process. There are just some things you should not do.
Nope.
Like, I'm not going to do my own taxes because I'm not a tax professional. So why do you feel like the internet is going to help you when the internet is not asking you questions? The internet is just pushing products and services and information, which is clouding your judgment. You've never sorted through the information to help you understand is what you're doing in your best interest. He was like, man, I said, I know your issue. You've probably been opening accounts and trading and doing this. There has been no connection with anything you've done financially, but I know you earn a lot. He came on as a consulting client where we just did accountability sessions. I didn't really need to sell him products, Felicia, but I was like, I need to check in on you every other month to make sure you ain't doing nothing crazy. Because he always did something crazy because he stays on the internet all day. I don't know if he works, but he makes a lot of money. But I was like, how are you on your phone knowing what's going on the internet every single day? So I know some of your listeners probably are being consumed with too much information. So the second story is kind of on the same lines as we're talking about these Henrys. We have access to information. And so then the other story is the young lady who it was too much information. So much information that it's called paralysis analysis or analysis by paralysis. You pick whichever way you want to say it, but you've consumed so much information that you can't act. So she had been going to stuff. I mean, Felicia, I swear to God, it was years. Oh, I've been going to this. name a famous financial guru. I'm not giving them the time on your platform, but she had purchased every program, done everything, and still said to me, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. So I said, and the programs are legit, but I said, you were just consuming. There was no relationship. I could sell you the same workbook, but the workbook ain't talking back to you. The online, on-demand course, those are ways to get you moving. They work for some. You're not one of those. And when I say you're not one of those, you would have thought I had taken her soul. She was like, clutching my pearls. I mean, it was Felicia, and I laughed. We laughed. I was like, do you hear yourself? You've made all these investments and have gotten zero results. You could have paid me a fraction of that, and I would have got you to at least take a step. I know one of your listeners has made investments in all these programs and has done nothing. This last story, this is the one I love too, had worked with a financial practitioner, but it only worked with somebody who was selling product. Now my Henrys run into a lot of these people. The average person runs into the salesperson. So Felicia, I know you are a certified financial planner. You prefer to go through a process, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the designation, but I too love planning and going through a process. We can sell whatever under the moon, but we prefer to do the plan. This young lady, she had just been buying stuff and buying products. This person you were working with, how often do they call you? How often do they check in on you? Aside from maybe you got a new job and you got some extra money, maybe it's the holidays, maybe it's a birthday. And in this instance, and I don't judge, practitioners on how they run their business because it works for them. But I asked the question, would you prefer like a higher level of service? Because in her situation, higher level meant all I had to do was call her maybe twice throughout the year, and I was already better than her current advisor.
Yeah.
All I said was you didn't have a plan, so you bought some, and the products were okay. Like they were all right. But once I was able to kind of get up under the hood, I was like, okay, you needed a little more insurance there. I would have recommended you put a little more money into this account. I probably would have thought about consolidating, but the guy she was working with just kept selling her stuff. And I was like, did you not feel like that wasn't, she really was oblivious to this practitioner because it was a referral from a friend. But the friend knew the advisor. She kind of just came in on the referral because again, my Henry people, we big on referrals. We big on the network because she was hanging out with that friend at brunch. All my Henrys love going to brunch. So they were at brunch. She was like, oh, I got a guy, but didn't really think about what she needed prior to getting into this relationship. And the relationship was primarily transactional. And I was like, I could say the same stuff, but is a relationship what you need? And that's what she had been looking for. And I'm like, so what do we do now? I'm not saying fire the guy, but how can I join your money team? Because clearly this guy isn't doing enough from what I'm hearing you say you need. And I always say, am I hearing that correctly? Because I don't want to make that, an ass out of myself, assuming what I think they know. No, you got to tell me. I need you to verbalize it. And when she verbalized it, I said, I think we need to have a conversation with him and I need to be there. She became a client.
Got it. But there was a lot of pearls inside of that, and I think you really spoke to what we see as financial advisors and practitioners in the people who approach us. Is we see a lot of people who have looked at a lot of information on social media and have followed and bought products from other people who are selling them stuff. And the thing that we both know is the people who have been successful in building their wealth have generally put together a team of professionals, including people like you and I, who are helping them and are in relationship with them. And so, I have friends and clients who have been with me for decades. That's the thing, is when you have that, they know your kids, they know that your mother just got diagnosed with breast cancer. But when you're just doing transactional stuff, you don't know that sort of information. And it really, as you said, doesn't take much for another advisor to kind of come in and replace them if what the person ultimately wants is a long-term relationship. You and I probably don't have a lot of fallout in our practice because we create relationships and we make a difference in people's long-term lives. And I think that's really the key.
Agreed. And let me say this too. I don't want to replace somebody on your money team if they're doing their job. Like
Right.
I want to complement what they're doing. And the example I'll give is the advisor who doesn't sell what I can offer. So if they are an investments professional, they don't usually talk about insurance and vice versa. So I'll stay in my lane and say, let me be your insurance guy since your investment guy doesn't talk about it. Or let me be your investments guy since your insurance guy or gal doesn't talk about it. So I'm never trying to replace. I just need to know who is on your team and are they doing what you need. But wait, Felicia, don't nobody got a team. My Henry's that's the problem. So
I'm sorry.
that's the
I'm sorry.
problem.
I'm sorry. But you know, the thing that's funny about what you said, Jasper, is the fact that I used to work in the estate planning department of a law firm in Burlingame, California. And what they did is they built walls around their clients. And the way that they built walls around their clients is they had a investment professional, they had a life guy, they were the estate planning people, they had an accountant, they had all those things. And so when I talk to my clients, and as I'm sure you do the same, as I was like, I want to be part of your team, but I want to know the other people who are part of your team. And you can't, if you are trying to build wealth, it does not make any sense, in my estimation, and probably yours, to be handling your life transactionally, where you don't have people who know all the pieces of it. Because what I tell people is when they want to say, I just want you to look at this one thing, I was just like, I can look at this one thing, but I might break something over here because I don't know that you got it going on over there. Or I might make a recommendation for you to do something over here when you already have it in place. And so you're right. I like a process. I like to look at all of the pieces. I'm really not very good at just looking and let me sell you some insurance or, you know, whatever it is that you feel like you need. I want to look at the whole thing because I don't want to break something because I don't know who else is on your team or what you have already created.
Yeah. Felicia, you made me think about this gentleman I met recently, where as we were talking, he was the epitome of the Henry, right? Makes all the money. Like the look in his eyes when he said, man, you the guy I've been looking for. Like, I think that's what validated that I know I'm in the right space, because as I was speaking, he was just processing all the work he'd been trying to do on his own, all the stress. And it was something about what I said that just triggered this, like, I can breathe. I just found a guy who I'm going to work with. And lo and behold, when we did our meeting, he was like, I want to do he listed off all the transactional things he wanted to do. And I was like, great, we're going to do that, but we're also going to do a plan. He was like, why? I said, because if I sell you all this stuff, but we don't like formalize it in a plan, something's going to fall off. Like something's going to happen and it's going to make me look bad. So I'll do all those accounts. It's like 5 accounts we're going to have to do. And I said, we'll do all 5, but I want to put all 5 of those inside of your plan so you can see why. That's kind of the big reason I think why we're so process driven, is that is way more valuable than me selling him 5 accounts.
Right.
Even if they're large accounts, that's great, because the problem with working with financial professionals is you have options. And especially if we're talking about your investments, which is what a lot of Henrys will encounter, the wealth manager, right? They just want to, how much you make, how much you got. And what they also don't understand is they're a little too abrasive with the ask, because a lot of my Henrys, most of their money is tied up in their 401k, which you cannot manage. It's tied up in options which have not vested. So I need to build this relationship. So when you really, really, really ready to get busy, then you will understand why we took the time to do the planning and didn't rush to just do a transaction. And I think that's the value that I bring to my clients is I love to sell you. I'll do it in a heartbeat, but I prefer. And so I started having to ask that question. Do you want me to be your sales transactional guy, or do you want me to be your relationship? And I need to know. And I had to start asking that questions, because sometimes it is a quick meeting. They're ready to buy and you should sell it to them. So as a practitioner, I'm always ready to sell. Oh, please believe, but I would prefer to get into a relationship.
I had a client who was a referral, and she was just like, just tell me what it is that I need to buy. And I was just like, I said, so basically what I'm hearing is that you just want to go straight to sex. You don't want to date. And she just laughed, and she was just like, I wouldn't have put it that way, but actually, I guess that's what I was asking you. Can we just go straight to the sex and forget about creating a relationship that leads up to the sexual act. And she just laughed and laughed and laughed. But, sometimes you just have to break up the way that they're already thinking so that they can realize how, it's something that we need to do, but it's certainly something that they also need to do, is they need to realize how they're coming across. They're asking for is for us to just hit it and then move on, as opposed to creating a relationship that brings flowers and, chocolates and all the rest of that sort of stuff. So it's just like, do you want the romance and the relationship, or do you just want to hit it? So anyway, this has been a fantastic interview, and I very, very much appreciated it. I'm just going to say, Jasper, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, I know that you wrote an article on the topic, so we can direct them to that. But I'm also seeing this background where you're talking about your book. Tell us a little bit about your book, how to get the article, and how people who are not a fit for me could reach out to you.
Yeah, so I'll send everybody to my website, which is thebuildwealthmovement.com. That has everything that I'm working on. The book is listed on there. I'm gonna have merchandise, which is part of my give back to a scholarship that I've created at my alma mater, North Carolina A&T. So I'm an HBCU alum. I understand the plight of doing well and doing good. The Henry article that I wrote, that is on there as well, amongst a variety of other topics. So just so you can kind of get a flavor for how I do what I do, it shows you that I'm not just here for the sale. And I think sometimes that hinders me because people are so used to being sold and pushed product. I don't need to push it. I need to understand how you're thinking about money, how you feel about it. But again, if you go to thebuildwealthmovement.com, you can check out everything. Again, the book you mentioned, it had to be something that was easy for people to digest when we're talking about financial planning. So my book is probably the easiest financial book you're going to read because it's short. I don't use too many big words. The examples I give are easy to understand. Literally a high schooler could probably pick it up and realize, this financial planning thing isn't that hard. And that's the whole idea, because all the financial books that I've ever read, it's too much data. It's too many analogies that we can't relate to. So I was like, let me use stuff that's relatable to my audience, and maybe that will resonate with them, which will encourage them to take that step that we talked about earlier. So thebuildwealthmovement.com is where you can find me. And if you want to reach out, I have a contact us section at the bottom. Just whatever you want to talk about, let me know.
So I thank you very much for being a guest today. I think you gave a lot of great examples. I definitely think that my audience those people who are listening who are a fit for you, I highly encourage you to reach out to Jasper. We hang out in the same forum. We're often posting about what I'm doing, what he's doing. I've been to his webinars and seen what he's been up to. I know that he delivers and will be a great person for somebody who is looking to create a relationship. And, I'm all about process. So I'm all about people who have a process to go ahead and teach people, because I know I can't do it all. And I'm looking for people like Jasper to be part of my team that I could refer people to. So if you are a millennial who is a Henry, I think that Jasper would be a good fit. If you're a woman, I'm a good fit for you. So reach out to Jasper. If you are a Henry who is perhaps a man, he would be a better fit for you. But if you are a Henry who's a woman, you could always talk to me. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And listeners, keep coming back to listen to more from people like Jasper and myself who are talking about how to build wealth and really disrupt, as he says, generational poverty. I love that as his trademark. I think that that's powerful. And I think that that is something that I'm up to. And a lot of the people that I know who serve our audiences are up to. We're really looking to change the conversation of generational wealth in our communities. And we want to make sure that we are stamping out those statistics that say that we as people are not doing as much as other communities. That is a conversation you will not be having with me and Jasper. All right, everybody. See you next time.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Her Money Story Podcast. Want more from Felicia Gopaul? Then subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss a minute. While you're there, feel free to rate and leave a review. We really appreciate it. And if you're interested in going deeper, visit FeliciaGopaul.com. Thank you again, and we'll catch you in our next episode.